I'd like to call the Tuesday, April 8th, 2025 City Council regular business meeting to order. With me this evening, we have our City Manager, Blair King. We have our City Attorney, James Haney, as well as City Clerk, Christine Brown, and our Trustee IT Helper, Ben. So thank you all for being here. City Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Christine Brown, City Clerk. Please state for the record if you are present after I call your name. Mayor Matthews?
Present.
Deputy Mayor Quitsland?
Present.
Councilmember Deeds?
Present.
Councilmember Hytopoulos?
Present.
Councilmember Morawaki?
Present.
Councilmember Schneider?
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
One nation under Canada.
And I'd also like to read the Suquamish land acknowledgement. Every part of this soil is sacred in the estimation of my people. Every hillside, every valley, every plain and grove has been hallowed by some sad or happy event in days long vanished. Chief Seattle, 1854. We would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is within the ancestral territory of the Suquab. It's people of clear salt water, Suquamish people, expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers. The Suquab live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's central Salish Sea as they have for thousands of years. Here, the Suquab live and protect the lands and waterways of their ancestors for future generations as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. With that, we move on to agenda approval. I think I have a motion here, the Councilmember Morawaki. We've received many emails today and over the last few days about Bainbridge disposal and our waste services here on the island. In light of an email that came late this afternoon, we would like to change direction a little bit and engage Bainbridge disposal in further good faith discussion, and as well as get a response from our proposal provided in May 2024, but we would like to continue negotiating towards a contract. And so I move to remove item 8A from the agenda and put in advance to allow for further negotiation.
Second that motion.
Well, we haven't had a motion to approve the agenda first.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
And then,
right.
Yeah,
yes.
right. So I would
Okay.
move to approve the agenda with the suggested reduction and also with the addition of what was discussed in
Yes.
executive session.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, speak.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I couldn't tell because all the
You can
lights
speak
are
to
on.
it.
Yeah. Okay, Kirsten.
So I guess, did this come from the city manager or is this coming from the mayor? This request to change the agenda, which is a very specific thing.
It was I'd like to remove it. Yeah.
And I guess I feel like it's not very, ultimately, we're probably looking to go in the same direction, et cetera. But I think not, but I think we're moving from the agenda, the opportunity to give any response to the community, to explain what's happened to date. There's a lot of misinformation out there. We may wind up in the same place, but I think it's not a good idea to remove something. I think a lot of people probably would like to hear what we're thinking and get more information too. So procedurally, you guys just voted, so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I don't think it's a good idea to actually remove the item.
If possible, we did vote, but I would be happy to withdraw the motions as motion maker.
Yeah, I would be happy as well. I think I would love to address it. I didn't want to keep it on the agenda with them feeling that we were still going forward with doing this. So, yeah, okay.
I think I'd try again.
Try again, Councilmember Morawaki.
And again, we don't have to take action on any item, so it's not, as if it's on the agenda, doesn't mean it's going to be voted upon tonight. Okay, so I move to accept the business meeting agenda with the addition of what was discussed in executive session.
Second, okay. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes. And with that, are there any conflicts of interest? All right, seeing none, we are moving on to presentations. This evening, we have three. The first is we are going to approve a proclamation declaring the week of May 1st to May 7th as Frog Rock Week here on Bainbridge Island.
We have to authorize I move to authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation declaring May 1st to May 7th as Frog Rock Week.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. It is Frog Rock Week.
You should
Okay,
vote.
so we're
You
gonna,
should
all
vote.
those in favor?
have
All
to
those in
vote.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, with that, it will be Frog Rock Week. Okay, I am so proud that you are here this evening. Happy anniversary, first of all, and thank you. A proclamation by the City Council of the City of Bainbridge Island, Washington, declaring May 1st through May 7th as Frog Rock Week. Whereas, nestled along the scenic roads of Bainbridge Island, the beloved and unmistakable Frog Rock has stood as a cherished landmark since its transformation in 1971. And whereas Frog Rock was created by local legend Bob Green during a fateful high school paint night, bringing joy, creativity, and a touch of whimsy to our island. And whereas for over 5 decades, Frog Rock has hopped into the hearts of Bainbridge Island residents and visitors alike, serving as a delightful attraction and symbol of community spirit. And whereas through the years, our beloved amphibious boulder has been lovingly dressed for the seasons, adorned for the holidays, and celebrated in a way that embodies the playful and artistic soul of our island. And whereas Bob Green, who still lives nearby with his wife Ellen Green, continues to be an integral part of our community. And it is only fitting that we recognize both him and his colorful creation in an official capacity. And whereas April 8th, 2025 is Bob and Ellen Green's 47th wedding anniversary. And whereas May 1st through May 7th marks a week to honor Frog Rock, its history, and the joy it brings by encouraging islanders and visitors to visit, celebrate, and perhaps even don their finest Frog Rock attire in its honor. Now, therefore, I, Ashley Matthews, Mayor of the City of Bainbridge Island, on behalf of our City Council, do hereby declare the week of May 1st through May 7th as Frog Rock Week in the City of Bainbridge Island and encourage all residents to celebrate creativity, community, and the enduring charm of our island's most famous rock. Thank you.
Thanks, honey. So my family came to Bainbridge Island in 1954 when I was 6 months old. And Bob will happily tell you that I'm a latecomer because he was born on Grow Avenue in his grandma's house. And we graduated in high school, met each other at Bainbridge High, and we're involved in all kinds of things Bainbridge. We currently live in Kingston because that's where our grandkids are. And that's what we can afford. But we so appreciate all this. And it's so fun to have something from our past still tickle the fancy of people. Thank you.
For Earth Month.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'll do that. Start off with a motion. I move to authorize the mayor to sign the proclamation declaring April 2025 as Earth Month and add it to the list of annual proclamations that may be signed by the mayor without further council action.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Oh.
opposed? Nay, okay. Go
Okay.
ahead.
And I'll go ahead and read the proclamation. Proclamation by the City Council of the City of Bainbridge Island, Washington, declaring April 2025 as Earth Month in the City of Bainbridge Island. Whereas this year's theme for Earth Day on April 22nd, 2025 is Our Power, Our Planet, inviting everyone around the world to unite behind renewable energy and to triple the global generation of clean energy by 2030. And whereas the world continues to face extraordinary challenges to the environment, and whereas all people have a moral right to a healthy, sustainable environment. And whereas on March 28th, 2017, the City Council approved resolution number 2017-13, declaring the month of April to be Celebrate Trees, Earth Month, Bainbridge Island, reaffirming the city's commitment to promote appreciation of protections for Bainbridge Island's trees and forests and the many cultural, economic, health, and material benefits that trees and forests provide both the community and the region, and committing the City of Bainbridge Island to creating progressive regulations that encourage tree retention, prevent inappropriate tree removal, and support the island's natural landscape and ecology. And whereas it is understood that all people must step forward and take action to protect the environment. And whereas the goal of sustainable environment can be achieved through educational efforts, public policy, and consumer activist campaigns. And whereas Sustainable Bainbridge has planned a series of events in April to raise awareness and encourage involvement to protect our trees, environment, and our planet throughout the year. Now, therefore, on behalf of Ashley Matthews, the Mayor of the City of Bainbridge Island, Washington, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim April 2025 as Bainbridge Island Earth Month. And we encourage all residents to join us in protecting the environment during Earth Month and throughout the year. And joining here is Christine Perkins and Jeanette Franks from Sustainable Bainbridge.
Oh, well, first, thank you so much. And I feel very honored to be here with Frog Rock Week. Wow, that's makes it extra special. But I feel especially privileged to live in a community where celebrating and preserving and protecting, fighting for the environment, our wildlife, our planet is such an integral part of who we are. So thank you for everyone. I would be remiss if I didn't say it's Sustainable Bainbridge. While we've been kind of the organizing party behind Earth Month for quite some time now, we can do it without an amazing team, speaking of community, which includes, and please let me know if I missed anyone, so the Bainbridge Island Land Trust, the Parks and Rec Department, the Parks and Trails Foundation, Islandwood, the Bainbridge Island Senior Community Center, and as part of Sustainable Bainbridge, it's also Weed Warriors, and of course with Jeanette and Zero Waste and Watershed Council. Let's see, did I leave anyone out?
Thank the city of Bainbridge
Yes,
Island.
and
They
you are-
participate, they come to.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yes, you are on my list too, that, you know, I have it in my pocket.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a cheat sheet. But we're grateful for the support with getting the word out about events and various cleanups over the years, like the beach cleanup too, which is all part of helping our planet. So thank you.
Yeah. Christine is the chair for many years of this large, interesting committee, and there are so many things happening, so I want you to know. So here's the Earth Month flyer, and then Earth Month work parties with the parks, and the environmental conference at Islandwood, and all of these can easily be found on websites. And so, like Captain Kirk would say, engage. And you got lots you can come to. So thank you.
And our last proclamation this evening is declaring April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day. Councilmember Morawaki.
Yeah, first, minor correction, as a Star Trekker, that would be Captain Luke Picard that would say that. And I'm close to getting to be like him. The Arbor Day proclamation is an annual proclamation, does not have to have council approval. I guess it's evergreen, you will. Anyway, it's a proclamation by the City Council of the City of Bainbridge Island, Washington, declaring Friday, April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for the planting of trees. And whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska. And whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of topsoil by wind and water, cut healing and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, and beauty to our community. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and provide character to our community. And now, therefore, on behalf of Ashley Matthews, Mayor of the City of Bainbridge Island, and on behalf of my colleagues on the City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25th, 2025 as Arbor Day in the City of Bainbridge Island, and I urge all residents to celebrate Arbor Day and support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. I further urge all residents to plant trees in order to promote the well-being of this and future generations. And to accept this will be our city arborist, Rob Reed.
Thank you, Council, for the opportunity to accept this year's Arbor Day proclamation, marking the beginning of the city's 21st consecutive year as a Tree City, USA. As already noted in this year's Arbor Day proclamation, best available science has reliably found that healthy, well-maintained trees provide numerous benefits to communities such as ours, including appreciable decreases in urban temperatures, experienced air pollution, rapidity of stormwater runoff and soil erosion, rates of stress and high blood pressure, and costs associated with both cooling and heating buildings. Not to mention critical wildlife habitat, as is particularly noticeable here in the beginning of spring. My name is Rob Reed, your city arborist. I work within the Planning and Community Development Department, where I administer the city's tree-related municipal codes, including the Landmark Tree Ordinance, the Critical Areas Ordinance, and regulations which protect trees during construction. My typical workday involves reviewing permit applications, addressing the public's tree-related inquiries, and providing interdepartmental guidance regarding best practices for managing publicly owned trees. I enjoy my position as the city arborist because it gives me a direct hand in supporting the delicate balance between the community's interest in executing sustainable urban development and fostering its distinguished urban forest. It also affords me the opportunity to turn an otherwise indifferent homeowner into an enthusiastic steward of their property's trees with just a bit of contagious inspiration. Thank you again, Council, for the opportunity to accept this year's Arbor Day proclamation and for your role as considered representatives of the island's invaluable resources.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thank you. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Oh, sorry, I skipped, oh my goodness, I skipped the screen. No. Next on our agenda is public comment. In-person public comment is accepted at this time on any topic of public interest. Each commenter will have 3 minutes to speak. Public comment is not taken on individual agenda items during the meeting. For items scheduled for a public hearing, comment is accepted from an individual only one time, either during public comment or during the hearing. Public comment is simply received by the council with no response, and council cannot deliberate on the items that are not on the agenda. The lack of comment is not an endorsement or a denial of the comment. Okay, first up, we have Diane Landry.
Hi, I just found out yesterday that the waste contract was on the agenda and now it's sort of a moot point to be talking up here. But I just want to say that I was the city's representative to the Solid Waste Advisory Committee of Kitsap County for 11 plus years. And in interacting with the Kitsap County employees and other solid waste employees throughout the state, I just would like to say that I hope whomever you go with, and I think it's very valuable to keep a local business owner in charge, is to have get a solid waste employee, somebody in the city government totally devoted in their position just to solid waste, because I see a lot of gaps that are happening without having that person on staff. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next is Heather Church.
Good evening, council and friends of the community. Thank you for your support tonight. My name is Heather Church, and I'm the owner of Bainbridge Disposal, a locally owned company that has the privilege of serving this community for many years. I'm here tonight to urge you, please do not move forward with the notice to the UTC. What's being proposed would give up a long-standing, successful partnership built on trust and hard work in exchange for an agreement that could eventually be canceled at any time. The change would open the door for large out-of-state corporations like Waste Management to take over a locally run service that has always been community-focused and willing to work with the city. During our negotiations, we asked for a clear understanding of why the changes were being proposed, especially since the current system was working well and the city had not raised any questions to Bainbridge Disposal. We were told that the climate action goals were the driving force, but it became clear early on that they were not. Instead, through their own admission, the real motivation was seeking new sources of income, costs that would eventually be passed down to our customers. Bainbridge Island and our valued customers deserve better. We deserve transparency, we deserve accountability, and we deserve decisions that protect small businesses like my own for the good of our community and not at their expense. Thank you for your consideration and your voice for the community.
Thank you. Next, Jackie Muth. And Ann.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jackie Muth, and this is Ann Smart. We're here representing the Bainbridge Creative District this evening. Thank you for considering the approval of the $3,300 expense from the Public Arts Subfund for permits for the Bainbridge Creative District markers. This modest investment supports a much larger vision, one that strengthens our identity as a vibrant creative island and connects us to the momentum of Washington's booming creative economy. Across the state, the creative sector generates more than $53 billion in economic impact and supports over 185,000 jobs. It's one of the fastest growing sectors in Washington, and Bainbridge Island has long been a cultural gem. The Bainbridge Creative District helps ensure we're not just part of that story, but helping to lead it. The new district markers will help define a sense of place. They'll greet ferry passengers on foot with a clear visual cue that they've arrived somewhere special, where art, creativity, and community are woven into everyday life. Each marker will also include a QR code, a simple but powerful tool that connects visitors and residents to nearby creative destinations, wineries, museums, galleries, theaters, and restaurants. These signs don't just beautify, they guide people into deeper, richer experiences on the island. They help distribute foot traffic, encourage local spending, and showcase the best of what Bainbridge Island has to offer. Thank you again for your support of the Creative District and our shared vision for a thriving cultural economy. Good, thank you.
Thank you so much. Next is Bruce Wyland.
Good evening. Thanks for this opportunity. Bruce Wyland. I live on Erickson Avenue. I wanted to say that I was actually very pleased when I saw that you have on the agenda an item for considering at least a brief look at the affordable housing overlay zone concept. Obviously, you're simply being asked to decide whether to pass it down to the Planning Commission so that they consider it. Seems like an easy ask because why not give them all the tools they might need? But I wanted to say here today that I was particularly pleased that the MRSC article was distributed to you all because it's really one of the best nutshell explanations of it. With all due respect to the staff, I was a little worried that the agenda bill summary kind of misled you, or at least obscured the value and the strength of this tool. The agenda bill summary for tonight on this topic suggested that this was sort of just another one of those density bonus techniques, but it is simply not a simple density bonus technique. We all know from experience that the many years of bonus density codes in Bainbridge Island have produced very few affordable units. It's not a tool that will ever produce the 1,300 units that the staff says is needed to meet legislation goals. What we found after many years of trying to build affordable housing is that the way to do it is have the government, perhaps in partnership with private NGOs or perhaps in partnership with private individuals, but it's got to be publicly funded. We cannot, because of the cost of land and the cost of construction, we as a city are just not good enough to meet the market and know what motivates private developers. We just haven't gotten that success. But we do have a great success about to be started down on the old police station site. That's a huge addition to our affordable housing stock. And it works because we as a public, either as the city council, the city staff, and maybe even funding through housing levies, took it on seriously for the first time. That is what overlays afford us to do around the city without a massive upzoning of market rate housing in the hope that maybe 10% of them will be affordable. Do the math. 1,300 new affordable units would require 13,000 new market rate units. But the affordable housing overlay zones helps you designate where affordable housing would be most useful. It doesn't affect the underlying zoning, which we do not have to change at all, but it allows anyone who comes in with 60, 70, 100% affordability to take advantage of a significant increase in density. That's a targeted solution. Let's please encourage the city council, or excuse me, the planning commission to adopt it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to make public comment? Okay, seeing none, is there anyone on Zoom?
The two commenters who had signed up in advance have not joined the meeting.
Okay. Okay. And I actually emailed him a couple minutes ago saying that we would be ready for him soon. So, okay. So with that, public comment is closed. All right. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Councilmember Morlock.
Thank you, Mayor Matthews. I move the consent agenda for tonight's meeting be approved.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Councilmember Moriwaki, seconded by Deputy Mayor Quitsland. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. The agenda is approved. Consent agenda is approved. And next are council announcements. Councilmember Moriwaki.
Thank you, Mayor Matthews. Last week I met with the Public Arts Committee. We saw a couple of representatives tonight. They wish to pass on their concern about the public arts study. They have some things they'd like to discuss about some of the possible recommendations. So I'm just passing it on. And this weekend around the country, It's estimated several million people participated in hands-off events. We had ours here on Bainbridge Island, organized by a group called Invisible Bainbridge. And I had the privilege of being their leadoff speaker. It was a fantastic event. Many of you were there. My colleague to my right was making sure that pedestrians were safely moving through Winslow, and her husband too, your team. And the thing that was impressive was I think, hope that we tried to spread. And the comments I shared, I wanted to make sure that people knew what we were doing on the city of Bainbridge Island. And so back from our previous meeting in February 11th, we reaffirmed the Safe and Welcoming City resolution, which is really powerful, done in 2017. It was 2017-09, I believe. And to remind people that this city has been this way for a long time, since Trump 1.0. And also ordinance number 27-06, directing our police department that you will not interfere or interrogate or even ask about the immigration status or citizenship of any individual, except if it's required by law to do so. Want to make sure, again, that fitted our welcoming city idea. And just one final thing, if I may, Mayor, I want to reiterate what I said at the 83rd anniversary commemoration. I couldn't do it there because it was time limited. The thing I said then was, 83 years ago, there were no people having rallies for Japanese Americans. 83 years ago, there were no people trying to stop the military from putting them on trains. Certainly, there were no pickets outside of any of the 10 concentration camps waving signs saying, "We demand justice and freedom for these people." None of that was there. Bainbridge Island was different because Walton Milley Woodward set this different tone, that the Constitution is premier, that these are friends and neighbors. He was the only newspaper editor in the entire country during the duration of this war to hold that editorial stance and have a conscience. But what's hopeful now is that we had this rally this weekend, and millions of people around the country did as well. And now our Congress and courts and labor groups and law firms are challenging, they're fighting back. I mean, the Fourth Estate finally got a Woodward backbone and they're fighting back. So that's the hope. It's a wholly different environment than it was 83 years ago. And I hope that we will strongly go in the Bainbridge Island way and support these communities. And finally, this morning, we had a fantastic event. Mayor Matthews, Deputy Mayor Quitsland, Councilmember Dietz, and Councilmember, was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, we went to the welcoming poll for Andy Peterson at the walkway to the ferry. I'll let my colleagues share their impressions, but I just got to say it's just awesome. And this is this entering to what our people get off the island for the first time. They walk and you're going to see this fantastic, beautiful totem that represents the woman. And then as you leave, as you're just about ready to enter the Bainbridge Island Terminal, there's this one that we dedicated this morning. And they're fabulous. And they say so much. And part of his talk was this is all about love and love of our environment and love of our community and the kind of friendship that the indigenous peoples have with the rest of this community. And it was multi-layered. I just thought it was really it was a great event that said a lot about what Bainbridge is really all about. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Councilmember Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to mention something about the April 5th hands-off rally. So one thing that might not be obvious, I don't know how it could be obvious actually, is that the group that was organizing it really did want and tried to get a permit for this event, and they couldn't for some very interesting reasons. You can't get insurance if you're doing a political rally, and you also normally can't get a permit like 30 days in advance. So they were very worried about doing this without the partnership with the police department of having that permit. Well, Chief Clark and our police came through anyway, without the need for, without the ability for them to get the permit. So I just want you to know that, and when this happens again, because I would bet that it probably will, please just give a wave of thanks to our police department for being there, keeping us safe, keeping us organized. And yes, I was on security, and I did nicely yell at people to please stay on the sidewalk, and maybe you'll see me do it again. I don't know. The other quick thing I wanted to mention is the field trip that council went on, or at least a lot of us went on last Tuesday, so a week ago now. We went to Seattle to tour some of the low-income housing, Lehigh, Low-Income Housing Institute, I think, projects that are going on there, because they're the partner that we're working with here for the 65 Winslow. And I just want to say that, besides the sort of structurally beautiful and whatever apartments that the buildings that we saw and the community spaces inside that we saw, it also just really struck me how much attention there was to getting light into each and every one of those units. So anyway, I'm grateful for the effort that went into getting us over there on this field trip. And I look forward to keeping that partnership going. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schneider. Councilmember Dietz.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Well, my colleagues have basically talked about the things that I was going to mention, but first, as far as the rally, I couldn't attend. I was at my aunt's 100th birthday in California, so but I certainly there in spirit, and like was mentioned, I think there'll be more of those. Yes, the tribal, I think they were welcome polls, they were called. And so the artist, Andy, I can't remember, Peterson, thank you, actually gave a very nice story of what these, there's a carving of a man and a carving of a woman. And this was a couple that met on the beach, and the man was more of a spirit, and a very interesting story how they went into the water and the woman became a sea creature like him. And so, and there was a story that in the indigenous culture, if you're out on the water, you give a little offering to these beings to keep the water safe for everybody. So anyway, beautiful story. The great thing is we all get to see these art sculptures every time we come on and off the ferry. So check it out. Let's see, I was a part of the tour of the Low Income Housing Institute, so I concur with what Councilmember Schneider went. I think my takeaway was the people we are partnering with, the Low Income Housing Institute, are incredibly professional, talented. This project is in excellent hands. That was my takeaway. They have multiple projects in Seattle. They know what they're doing, and we will be well served by their efforts. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dietz, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of different things to comment upon, including things that have already been mentioned. I'll be brief about that. There were two meetings of the Planning Commission, first on March 27th, and another meeting, a special meeting on a Wednesday, April 2nd. The Planning Commission is continuing very painstaking and careful work in definition of the preferred alternative for Winslow. This preferred alternative will be very different from either of the alternatives offered to us in the earlier stages of planning, articulated at length in the draft environmental impact statement. Those alternatives in some ways are flawed, and they're being improved upon. That's been the business for the Planning Commission since the really beginning of the year, really, and it will continue. Much more to be done and detailed work, and I hope that action later in the meeting will aid the Planning Commission with the tool that has already been mentioned in public comment. I would like to mention that one distinguishing characteristic of the April 2nd Planning Commission meeting was the presence of Jay and Trudy Inslee. They are showing profound interest, a sincere interest in what we're doing now. And I thought our governor, he's still governor, although he's former governor at the same time. That's his title. And it's great to have him as a prominent citizen among us now. On April 3rd, I participated on Zoom in the monthly meeting of the Puget Sound Regional Council's Growth Management Policy Board. The business of that board now, and running through September probably, is the review and certification of comprehensive plans and associated documentation from all the municipalities and the counties under the Regional Council's umbrella. And at the same time, the Department of Commerce is doing a similar process of review and certification. We have a lot of work to do to get our plans ready. Looking at other municipalities similar to us, I see how far they've come in their planning. I see how far their own readiness for the need for housing is. We are behind in the game, and we have a lot of catching up to do. But I do think the will is there, the intelligence is there. It's important that we carry through with work that has been done very carefully with, I would say, very broad concern for impacts and implications of population growth and increasing densification. It just has to be done well, it has to be done right. And I think we're on that path. Also on April 3rd, I attended the Utility Advisory Committee meeting in the evening. Most of the meeting was devoted to the committee's work in revision of the comprehensive plan utilities element. The water resources element was also mentioned in passing, and that may be something that the Utility Advisory Committee will deal with, along with other interested parties within our community. On April 5th, I was another participant in the hands-off event, let's call it that, a procession and a program, a substantial program that I thought Councilmember Morawaki contributed to in a profound and inspirational way, recalling history and identifying the issues at stake for us all. This event was a protest. It was a consciousness-raising event. It was a celebration of this community. It was, the weather was beautiful, and that certainly helped a lot. But I saw so many people I knew. I saw so many more people I have never seen before. You get a feel for this community and how it can come together, how diverse we are, and how much we share together in our values and our enjoyment of one another and of public events. This is I hope that spirit carries over into some more difficult territory where we have contentious issues to resolve. One of the terms that's important in the comprehensive plan is reconciliation. Reconciliation of development and environmental protection. Reconciliation of the interests of different parties, different aspects of a complex and perhaps more and more diverse community. So let's try to bear in mind what we can do, how we can be together around our values and our protection of one another. I mentioned also I took part also in this dedication of the story poles at the ferry terminal in the walkway area. It was inspirational to hear from the members of our local tribes, the artists and the people, elders and spokespeople for their values, their culture. One of the comments I heard was, this is not art. This is part of a community's identity. It's an expression of identity and an expression of history and a kind of mythic understanding of the culture and its relationship to the natural world. So that was very splendid. No such thing existed in my earlier life on Bainbridge Island. No such presence, no such pride and messaging to the larger community. So it's great to see that, and I really think it's a huge asset within our community. That's enough time for me.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Okay, I'll be very quick. So also toured the Low Income Housing Institute, went on the field trip with everyone last week, and it was a great trip. I just wanted to thank City Manager and the staff that took their time to go with us, as well as the members of the Race Equity Advisory Committee, Olivia and Lynn. It was a really great day. I had seen a project there before, but as Councilmember Dietz said, it just really shored up that we are working with the right folks. So it was great to go see that. We had our Kitsap Public Health District Board meeting last week. And unfortunately, the federal cuts to public health will also be affecting us here. So we're figuring out our way around that. Got interviewed for an article on pickleball. So that was fun. We also met with Deputy Mayor and Councilmember Dietz and I met with the executives at Wingpoint. And it was a very good meeting. We learned a lot, I would say. And so I wanted to thank Wingpoint for having us, as well as clarify some things. We had thought that they were using tons of 33 million gallons, I believe, of water, and they are using under their DNR granted water rights amount. So, and they would like to further discuss with us oh my gosh, my brain just went blank. Water conservation. And they also wanted us to stress that they provide approximately 40 million gallons a year of recharge. So anyway, thank you for their executives for meeting.
Mayor, if I may, apologize. I should have said this during my comments, something substantive that I forgot to mention.
Okay, I'm almost, do you want to? Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were pausing.
Sorry about that. Okay, and then also Growth Management Policy Board. Last night I attended a pre-Passover Seder over in Mercer Island at the Mercer Island Community Center. First time on Mercer Island. I'd never been there before. For all the folks, I hear a lot that as we are trying to work on our affordable housing here, that we're going to have it looking like Mercer Island. No, I didn't see any similarities, and hopefully we never get anywhere close. I don't want it to seem like Mercer Island was beautiful, but we are not them. And then the welcome polls this morning, the totems were just such a really grounding event. They're in a perfect place. So when you go to the ferry and you're walking down the pathway, you'll see them. The artist, Andy Peterson, was just delightful. The tribal liaison to the Washington State Ferries and WashDOT, Philip Narte, actually grew up here on Bainbridge Island, and his family has been here for a long time. And he was telling me that until 1951, folks of color couldn't ride on the upper deck of the ferries. And he was just so amazed to see a mayor of color from Bainbridge Island. And so he gifted me a piece of the totem pole. So I will cherish this forever. I just really, really, really beautiful. And I'm grateful. I got to open the farmer's market this past Saturday by throwing the radish. They no longer have a cheese purveyor, and that was also great. So threw some radish from Butler Green Farms, and then had a chance to go walk down Winslow and see our community, and it was a pretty spectacular day. And I wanted to just end that with a quote from one of our community members, Chastity Malatesta, who many of us know and love. And she said about that day, Parent Chastity Malatesta said, BI showed up in love, which spoke to the island's commitment to unity. I feel very proud, really proud that the neighbors that I love are standing in solidarity. And being an African-American woman on Bainbridge, I think it's a testament to the fact that we can do better. Right now, a lot of people woke up newly oppressed, and that for some of us were born into oppression. This is a time for us to come together. The only movements that have been successful are people's movements that are built on love. Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Moriwaki.
Thank you, Mayor. And before I get, thank you, Deputy Mayor Quitzlin and Councilmember Scheider for being there and for your very kind comments about my comments. I was going to mention this in my talk, and I think I hope you saw the email. I sent an email about what Kitsap 911 is proposing. I got that email yesterday and it just got distributed to all of you today. Essentially, this is for all the agencies, all fire departments, all police departments throughout Kitsap County. They're asking for a major increase in the service fees from each of our communities. Right now, we do about 88,000 plus, and the increase proposal is up to 122,800. It's going to be done in 3 years, so it'll be about 34,000 roughly every year. This is something they've given a 60-day notice on, so people and others can comment. And I think certainly all of my colleagues, I'm sure, have comments. The reason why it's being done is that the bond of 4 million, the big bond that was for the new communication services that are being applied to fire and police. It's a high-tech closed communication system that will be special radios and communications devices that will not be encumbered by any other source. So therefore it's more reliable. So that's cost. And they also put in a lot of money for what they call mobile computer terminals. They're basically fancy laptops that are in all these vehicles. That pays for the hardware. This proposal is to pay for the times when a vehicle or officer is outside of that special network and has to go to cellular. And so this is a fee charge they're suggesting that would have to be covered for this equipment. I'm personally not sure if, I think the bond could have probably covered that as well, because taxpayers already, well, that's a whole nother discussion. But I want to bring it up, and I hope if Mayor and others, I think this is worthy of a future agenda item for discussion at a regular business meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Moriwaki. Okay, and next is our city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 2 items to report. One falls in the good news category, and the other falls in the not good news category. As the council knows, the city made a request for earmarked funding via our lobbying firm to be included in the state budget funding for the 625 Winslow Affordable Housing Project. We have learned that the Senate version of the budget includes $5,050,000 for that project. We've also been told that if it's in the Senate version of the budget, it's expected to pass through then to the governor's desk. However, I did watch the NCAA men's basketball tournament this weekend, and I know that it's not over until it's over. But we do think that we will be successful in securing the $5,050,000. What is good about this is it's from a transportation-oriented development account, which means that we still will go ahead and make a request from the Housing Trust Fund as well as the Affordable Housing Tax Credit Program. That is the good news. In the not so good news, we were notified that FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Agency, is rescinding or canceling what's referred to as the BRIC program, and that's building resilience, infrastructure, and communities. We had been informed by FEMA that the city was in line to receive a grant of approximately $265,000 from the BRIC program, which we were going to dedicate to studying Manitou Beach Road. Again, the grant contract was never executed, but the purpose of our trying to secure this grant is that, as you know, as an island community, we are susceptible to tsunamis, king tides, and storm surges. You were told a couple of weeks ago that based upon the Seattle fault, that a tsunami generated from that fault could reach the east side of Bainbridge Island within 5 minutes. Manitou Beach Road would be in the target area. The purpose of our grant request, again, we understood that we were going to receive the grant, was to develop engineering solutions to deal with issues associated with our roads. And we estimate we have about 10 road segments similar to Manitou Beach Road that are subject to tsunamis, storm surges, and king tide. For those of us involved in government for a long time, we know FEMA has a horrible reputation of spending a significant amount of money after a natural disaster, but spending no money to prevent that natural disaster. We thought that the BRIC program was a change of attitude on FEMA's part on a more effective and efficient way to spend the public's money. We also know that local government is a great laboratory to develop solutions to problems, as a nimble public agency, we're looking forward to developing ways we could solve this. We're still going to follow up, but we believe that we might have to come back to the council at a future date and have that project eliminated from the capital improvement program.
Thank you, City Manager. Okay, now we'll move on to our regular business. Item 8A, consider providing notice to the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission of the city's intention with regard to solid waste services.
Thank you. I have a presentation that I can give to the council, which provides some background on this issue. You heard from public comment. But let's start off. This has been a discussion on solid waste that's been occurring for some time with the council. We can go to the actual next slide. So pursuant to information that one might find at the Minnesota Research and Service Center, MSRC, pursuant to the revised code of Washington, the state of Washington has established a statewide system for solid waste handling, recovery, and recycling. And based upon that system, cities are assigned the primary responsibility for solid waste. That is a typical service that cities provide. And through this program, the questions come up, why would the city become involved in this? I think that there is specific pragmatic issues, but there's also a concept construct that I think we want to make sure we visit. If a city is not involved in regulating solid waste, then in the absence of local government, the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission provides oversight, primarily then for the rate structure that's approved. And that is the case with the city of Bainbridge Island. Over the last several years, we've gone through, and I've listed in the next slide, please. The city council for the last 4 years has taken a variety of serious steps to address solid waste. Probably one is adopting the disposal food serviceware and waste reduction ordinance, which in my opinion was a very innovative and progressive ordinance that put the city into a very small class of other cities dealing with solid waste. That ordinance, though, exposed the difficulty in managing that ordinance without having a more direct relationship with our solid waste hauler. Other things the city has done over the last 4 years, conducted a waste management evaluation of the city's solid waste and recycling structure. It was mentioned that the city council directed that a city staff member represent the city on the Kitsap County Solid Waste Advisory Committee. The city, pursuant to direction by the state, adopted a composting requirement, reporting, and usage ordinance. The city also applied for and received a waste reduction and education recycling grant, which we are undertaking at this time. We went ahead and secured the services consultant system negotiations for the purpose of securing a solid waste services contract. We've consulted with city advisory boards, and I want to come back to this one a little bit later. We've established objectives that the council approved for solid waste management contract. And then also the city authorized a 12-month period of exclusive negotiations with Bainbridge Disposal. And what we mean by the period of exclusive negotiation with Bainbridge Disposal is the council said, we'd like to see if we can arrive at a contract for services with Bainbridge Disposal to provide exclusive services within our community using the public right of way with the authority of the city. We would like to see if we can arrive at a situation where we assume the responsibility for reviewing the rates that the waste hauler would provide, the programs for the waste hauler, and assume that responsibility from the UTC. The city authorized a period of exclusive negotiation with Bainbridge Disposal back in September 12th of 2023. It took a little while to agree to a form of that 12-month exclusive negotiation, but back then in December 12th, the city council looked at that exclusive negotiation and went ahead and approved it. And it was executed by Bainbridge Disposal. It was then and is now our sincere hope and intention that we can arrive at an agreement with Bainbridge Disposal. We think Bainbridge Disposal served the community well, and we would like to continue that relationship. Through May to November 24, a variety of meetings and conferral processes occurred. A draft contract agreement was provided to Bainbridge Disposal. I have it here. We have yet to receive a counter offer to that proposal. In November, Bainbridge Disposal asked that further discussions be suspended so that they could conduct an evaluation perhaps an audit or an appraisal of the value of the firm. In January, the city requested that negotiations resumed. And at that time, Bainbridge Disposal said they were willing to continue to talk, but they were not interested in a contract. Bainbridge Disposal represented that they believed that they had an unlimited perpetual property right to engage in the service that they had. At this time, it is my hope, continuing hope, that we can engage Bainbridge Disposal and we can develop an agreement for services. Bainbridge Disposal is a regulated utility. There is no regulated utility that can use city right-of-way for their use to conduct their business without the permission of the city council. We want to do things right, and this is an opportunity to make things right. The city has endorsed a variety of objectives, and these include: we want to see an increase in recycling and composting, outreach and diversion. We want to see collection improve for hard to reach places. We want to minimize future rate impacts, and we know Bainbridge Disposal had a 27% rate increase. Not that they didn't deserve it, but they did have a large rate increase. We want to address organic waste disposal. We have a state law that mandates us to do that and to be addressed by next year, I believe it is. And also the dynamics of waste is changing with additional requirements imposed on us by the state. We want to be able to control the waste stream for future use, and we want to enhance community aesthetics. Probably the biggest reason, and it's hard to articulate, but it has been shared with Bainbridge Disposal, goes back to we want to do things right. We want to do things in the right way. We don't want to see the regulation of Bainbridge Disposal occur at the state level. We want to see it occur at the city level. As far as we can tell, Bainbridge Disposal has never had an agreement with the city of Winslow. They've never had one with the city of Bainbridge Island. It's hard to have a perpetual property right if that property right has never been given to you. You can't just claim it. So this is the opportunity for us to establish that relationship in a meaningful way for the benefit of both Bainbridge Disposal and the city, which would allow us to achieve our mutual goals. It is my hope that we can still arrive at an agreement with Bainbridge Disposal. But the backup plan, if we can't, is that we provide notice to U2C, and then we hope that we can again arrive at our primary goal. In the alternative of taking any action this evening, this item can be held in abeyance, and the council could ask that we continue to pursue negotiations with Bainbridge Disposal. I will say, as was mentioned in public comments, it is true that the cost of dealing with organic waste, the cost of dealing with the backyard compostable ordinance, education and continued ongoing enforcement, representation for the county, that is a cost to the city, and in all likelihood, we probably are reaching the point where a full-time position is needed to take on those responsibilities. And as was mentioned in public comment, and that is something that, at least in my opinion, rings true about the need to do that.
Thank you so much, City Manager, Deputy Mayor, and then Councilmember Hytopoulos.
First of all, a couple of comments. The first of them relates to the work of the Utility Advisory Committee. They're in the midst of reviewing and revising the utilities element. One portion of that very brief piece of the comprehensive plan is solid waste disposal, recycling, and composting. Work was done on the 2016 comprehensive plan. I was involved in that. We made some plans at that point that were not really followed through. Now, the first pass at this portion of the utilities element, the committee has already done some work, and I think they can do more. I think it might be possible for some participation of an informal nature between the parties that have not been able to come together. The members of the Utility Advisory Committee have credentials and background and certainly a deep community interest in making things better for all concerned. And I just would like that to be taken up because I don't believe in the course of this negotiating process, I don't think the Utility Advisory Committee has been brought into the loop at all. And it would be a good idea, I believe. I would like to see some way of engaging an agreement between this important, longstanding private local business and the city that does not involve anything that looks like a takeover by the city. That's never been, in my understanding, that's never been the desire, but there's an asymmetrical relationship between the city and this private business. And it's always hard to negotiate on a level playing field between two very different entities, one more, well, whatever. We've seen this breakdown of trust and negotiation before in other situations. I think it can be worked through, and we just need to be patient about it. I'd like the community to understand that the city has not decided we're going to open the door to an outside entity. That's not been decided. That's not the desire. The desire is to resolve our local differences and different needs. And I hope we can get on with that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councilmember Hytopoulos.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort so far to try to clarify things for the public. I think that's really important. I feel like we might be still missing some of the important why, which I think is a lot of the question. I think that what we're hearing from the public is why, which I think we also heard from Bainbridge Disposal. The request at the beginning of this was, well, why are we doing this? The why, and then also, what was I going to say? Oh, and to clarify that everything we've done so far to date has been with the intention of maintaining Bainbridge Disposal as our provider. So I think just going back to where I feel like it's still potentially missing from the why, and maybe the city manager can help with this, but when the city manager talks about things like, well, no utility should be able, can use the public right of way without permission. What that's part of is the way things are typically structured, right? With any utility in any city is that we have franchise agreements, et cetera, where once there's an area that's incorporated, there's a particular kind of relationship between entities that are providing utilities. And what happened here, as my understanding, and something we've seen many, many times over the years since incorporation, that there've been some sort of missing pieces, and that there's a missing piece here about what happened when we incorporated in the relationship with our provider. And these are things that this is why we wanted a professional government. We wanted an experienced professional to come and help us professionalize the government, create formalize relationships where we're supposed to, implement the regulations we're supposed to. So I think this is about two things. I don't think it's about trying to get money from Bainbridge Disposal or from the community. I think it's about creating the appropriate contractual relationship that any city would have with its waste provider. And it is about us implementing our solid waste policy. And yes, the state has put on us a lot of pressure to regulate, to improve solid waste and so forth. But we also have our own programs here. For example, it's been mentioned, food waste being a big concern of the council. And I want to throw out there that is 8 to 10% of carbon emissions. So it might seem like a small thing, and why are we bothering everybody with this? But that's a large amount of global carbon emissions that we can affect. So that's just one example of why this matters to us. So I'm going on and on and on, but the bottom line is I think what we're hearing from the overwhelming response from the community, which is really important when it's that much of a response, is we haven't explained this well enough, and that we're not prepared to go forward. And I'm glad to hear that we're not prepared to go forward and ask for bids or open negotiations with other entities. And as the city manager said, I hope that instead we can take this time to educate the community on why we're bothering to do this. And also hopefully move forward with good faith negotiations with Bainbridge Disposal, because that's our first choice.
Thank you, Councilmember Hightower, City Manager.
Yeah, through the chair, that is a good summation of where we are. Again, I will say there's a desire to do things in the right way. We do not have an agreement with our waste hauler. We hope that we can have an agreement with Bainbridge Disposal. We've tried to make it clear that in terms of the term of the agreement, we would be as flexible as we could to allow costs to be amortized to take the agreement as far as it could. In my brief tenure here, well, first of all, the council has the authority for solid waste. You have the responsibility for solid waste. You can delegate that, but you can't ignore it. In my brief tenure here, the council's taken bits and pieces of solid waste policy issues, and you have dealt with it, but you haven't dealt with them in a comprehensive, and I will say from my position, a coherent fashion, which has made it more difficult to implement. The base piece of that is having a relationship with the hauler. Whether it's now or in the future, there will be a council that will say, we need to have a relationship to regulate the rates. For example, right now the rates are reasonable, but if the rates are not reasonable, the city council will not be in a position to regulate those rates because you have delegated that to someone else. The ability to regulate rates rests with you if you wish to take that. There is not a desire to push Bainbridge Disposal out. We've tried to make it clear in every single meeting that it's our desire to have an agreement with Bainbridge Disposal. Speaking of the Utility Advisory Commission, they were consulted in the beginning. They're the ones that pointed out the comprehensive plan policy that implies that the city should monitor service and maybe look at service from alternative providers. That was not our intention, which is why we didn't go back to the UTC, because we weren't trying to go in that direction.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Dietz.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. And thank you everyone for that, all the summations so far, which I certainly concur. And I'll just reiterate, we'll just say, we've gotten a lot of public comment and I certainly appreciate that. And in a nutshell, it's like, why don't you want to do business with Bainbridge Disposal? We do. We really do want to do business with Bainbridge Disposal. Every single one of us has said so from the very beginning, and we continue to want to do so. And it is my hope that will happen. So I'm hoping that coming out of this, that discussions, negotiations, what you will call it, will resume in earnest. We are responsible for climate action plan implementation, which includes solid waste policies. These are our responsibilities as a city council, as a city. And these include what I would like to see, whatever our relationship with Bainbridge Disposal, as been mentioned earlier, that the recycling is increased and composting, and there's greater outreach. Hard to reach service areas has been improved. Opportunities to dispose or recycle special items, addressing organic waste disposal, control waste stream for beneficial reuse, such as an anaerobic digester, etc. So these are the things I want to see us address in our discussions with Bainbridge Disposal. And again, I just reiterate, we would like nothing more than to have a working relationship with Bainbridge Disposal. I cannot emphasize that enough. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Dietz. Councilmember Moriwaki, and then Councilmember Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor Matthews. Lots going to be discussed. It's underscore, and thank you, City Manager, for reminding all of us that you are trying to professionalize us. And the important part is, for decades, there's been a public provider using our right-of-way without permission or legality. That's a problem. So we're trying to address that. And we could have gone to the Utilities and Transportation Commission for that opening. And it was the city council said, we have a provider. Let's try to make agreement with them. So that's what this process has been this whole time. And I've received, I think we've all received the same emails, but many have said, why haven't we even brought into the loop? And Councilmember Pytopoulos is right. We have a lot of explaining to do. But the reason why is that we're a responsible city, and this was a private negotiation with a private company between our city and a company. We don't discuss that in public. It's called, we had an executive session earlier today. I can't tell you what's in it because of those reasons. The people should know that when they're negotiating with our city, it's done in good faith, that we are not backdooring, that we're not discussing this with anybody outside of the chambers, because that's what they elected us to do. So that's really part of that issue, because we're trying to be responsible and appropriate with the uses of our responsibility and everything else that goes with that. And so it was clear, and I think I'm speaking for all the colleagues, that we really want to keep this as a provider that we already have here. Because I like their uses, but we also have to be within compliance of law. And that's really an issue. It's certainly to me. And maybe it hasn't been done all these decades, but we have a different city manager who's been here. I think City Manager Burke King has brought a level of professionalism that we haven't seen on this island in a long time. And I really appreciate all of his career of experience in making sure that we're in compliance with what cities should be doing. So that's really that story. And I hope that answers the question of why you weren't left in the dark. We were trying to do this properly in our own proper places because it's a discussion with a private company. This is a city discussion. It could be purchase of land, it could be for a park. We don't discuss that in public. So we do this because we're wanting stewards of our tax dollars, and we want to be properly following procedures and laws of which we're required to follow to the revised Code of Washington and other laws. So that's really what this whole process has been. Now it's been revealed because it was brought up to the agenda, but I really want to stress that's one myth. It was not an effort to keep anybody in the dark. We were doing what we should do responsibly as a city, and we're going to stick to that route. So now it's open. I believe now, let's have this discussion now, indeed. But to say that we were trying to hide something or sneak this around the back is really an unfair representation of what we were doing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Marwaki. Councilmember Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm kind of looking back in time a little bit on various challenges that council has taken on and how it interacts with this issue now. So there was a time when, as Councilmember Dietz was saying, that we looked into getting, having a biodigester here on the island. And, a biodigester is not going to change the world or Bainbridge Island, but it would be a darn good experiment to manage our organic waste. And it kind of pointed out that we didn't really have the relationships that we needed in order to make that happen. And then we took on single-use plastics and banned single-use plastics, which then goes and creates a lot more organic compostables without really a system for managing all of that. And we said at the time, well, we're going to work on it. That's going to come next, but we just wanted to, stop the plastics from piling up first. Well, we need to manage organic waste. I am fortunate enough to be in a community that has a backyard composting system, and it's actually causing some issues right now, and we may not be able to hang on to it. So it's not something we can all deal with in a private way. It really is something that is going to have to be done at the city level. So anyway, I also will join my colleagues in assuring Bainbridge Disposal that we would love for them to partner with us on all of these issues. And, things that we probably kind of should have done 30 years ago, we didn't do, got kicked down the road, and we're dealing with it now. So I agree with Councilmember Hytopoulos. We really do need to tell this story and talk about the whys and have a good conversation with our provider. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Schneider. I will echo, I guess, I agree with everything said, so I won't belabor those topics any longer. I wanted to say that this is the most public comment we've received since crematoriums, I think. I mean, it's very interesting to think solid waste and crematoriums, but we got a lot of public comment. And so, yeah, it's fat. And so, out of all the public comment, I really wanted to say, Heather, you are such a valued member of the community. Folks overwhelmingly appreciate you, appreciate your services, appreciate your guys and gals who work for you. I mean, that was the overwhelming message. And it was the same as I think ours up here, that we want to continue with you as our provider. Just a tiny 2-second personal story. When I moved here 17, 18 years ago, whenever I knew no one, a nobody, and it's a pretty hard community to break into. And so the folks who took me in were probably what you would call our blue collar workers, folks who might work for Bainbridge Disposal or other companies, and they made this a home for me. And so I can never forget that. And so I really, when I think about losing your company, I think about losing them and jobs, which is something we can't do. So I know that city manager is working towards an agreement, and I hope to see you get there. Thank you. Do we have a motion? We don't, let's see. We need to change, we don't want to do that.
You could move that, you directly continue to engage, Bainbridge Disposal in exclusive fashion. In other words, we don't talk to anybody else, and that, we continue to strive. And here's where the gist of this is. Whether we work on a contract or something to establish what that relationship is outside of the UTC, but that any notice to UTC will hold in abeyance until we can see the results of continued negotiations.
Can I say so moved?
Sure. Okay, motion made and seconded. Did everyone hear that? Okay. No. You have to go to the mic so we can hear you.
Yes.
So, this, you would have to speak during public comment, so we can't take you would have to speak during public comment on this topic.
I requested to speak during our discussion agenda item this evening, and as I understood the public comment rules, you're not supposed to submit public comments for discussion action agenda items. So I understood I was appropriately.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay. Well,
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. If I could just understand, the discussion agenda we just had, the company did not have a chance to present.
So what you do is you speak like in public comment, you would get up and speak just when Heather spoke. That's what I thought you were referring to. And so you would get up with Miss Church and right behind her, and you would sign up, and then you would say, hi, I'm Michael.
Certainly. I misunderstood the rules. Thank you.
Yeah, because that would open, we never do that. And that would be
Okay. Thank you.
Not picking on you. I want you to know that. So if you could, forward your comments or let us know right after this, anything like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thanks. Okay, we had a motion made and seconded.
Just for clarification, because you said a lot, to a friendly, hopefully, disclaimer or explainer. We move to direct city manager to continue the discussions and negotiations with Bainbridge Disposal, the goal of finding as a primary provider in accordance with all laws. Yeah, exclusively.
Yeah, and we're setting it, right? We're setting aside the UTC issue. Okay, but we want to meet with Bainbridge Disposal.
And I didn't say anything about UTC.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, I just did.
Yeah.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously, and we look forward to more conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, next on the agenda is discuss proposed motion related to an affordable housing overlay zoning ordinance in the Winslow sub-area planning.
Yes, this item is on the agenda, through the process of the council member adding an item on the agenda. Our planning community development director will provide a, brief introduction. And then we are waiting for council's direction with regard to this proposal and whether the council wants to forward it to the planning commission for further consideration.
Good evening, City Council. Patty Charnas, Planning and Community Development. Before you tonight is a topic forwarded by Deputy Mayor John Quitsland regarding affordable housing overlay zone. Staff has not spent a lot of time on this topic, but we were asked to do a little table setting. So affordable housing has been a topic and a priority for the city for quite some time. It's no secret because our median home price is the highest in Kitsap County, and many of our members of our workforce can't afford rental or ownership on the island and instead have to come on and off the island on a daily basis. The city has also invested substantial time and funds to plans, studies, and reports, including back to in 2021, reporting on 2 biennia regarding housing, a dedicated webpage on our housing action plan, a 2021 study in inclusionary zoning to increase affordable housing, and then finally, of course, our housing action plan, which contained numerous tools and other actions for the city's consideration, including actions and tools that the city has control over, such as planning, land use, and code. But tonight, however, we have been asked to, whoops, how do I go back this way? Right. To set the table for the affordable housing overlay zone. What you see here is the lead of a story published in 2022 by the Municipal Research and Services Center, MRSC. And this 2022 article was talking about affordable housing overlay zones, among other reasons, to avoid the pitfalls of direct upzoning, which in this article's discussion causes gentrification and displacement. So we as staff are by far not experts on this topic. However, in a nutshell, it allows an alternative to direct upzoning by creating affordable housing through optional bonuses and incentives over and above what is allowed on the underlying zone. It avoids those potential pitfalls of direct upzoning, especially in larger jurisdictions that can cause gentrification and displacement. And it's worth considering locally because there is a concern about direct upzoning creating multifamily as we continue to work on the Winslow sub-area plan. Without a lot of time, I looked at some of the jurisdictions that are mentioned in the article. Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Albemarle County, Virginia, of course, have large populations. And when you have large populations, you do create more opportunities to explore options. But those had similar median home prices, similar median household incomes, but really weren't alike to us at all in population. The city manager has mentioned his familiarity with the statewide California density bonus law, but the city of San Clemente, California came as close as I could to my limited research as being like us. Their population is 63,000, their median home price and median household income exactly like ours. However, a lot of other examples exist out there in the Salt Lake City, some other many jurisdictions, over a dozen. However, in conclusion, and I look forward to your discussion tonight, our housing action plan analyzed similar tools we already have on the books. And one of the things that is on our work plan to improve is the housing design demonstration project. We have code for that. A lot of discussion even prior to when I started, but definitely during the planning for the comprehensive plan updates was to make the HDDP program a little more streamlined, a little more focused on improving the creation of affordable housing and housing availability in general. Interestingly enough, there are no examples in the state of Washington of an affordable housing overlay zone. From a staff perspective, again, without doing a lot of analysis, our new requirements under the amendments to the Growth Management Act, where we have to show accommodation for a series of affordable household incomes, includes our requirement to do an assessment of land capacity. And having an overlay zone that has uncertainty as to whether or not it gets employed adds uncertainty to our ability to calculate capacity. So I look forward to your discussion tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Director. Councilmember Hytopoulos.
Yeah, I really appreciate this being brought forward. I'm really interested in it. I think obviously it depends entirely on what the numbers are and the concept that are applied to the overlay zones. But I think it really precisely sounds like it could address one of the biggest concerns of the Planning Commission, of a lot of people in the community, among me personally, with regards to using the blunt tool of upzoning to multifamily units and then just letting the market do what it does. I think this is pretty exciting. We talk about this and it leaves the dais here, I hope we do not try to impose something on the Planning Commission. I hope we encourage them to ask to use this tool, to study this tool, and let them do the work that needs to be done with staff to explore it. The one thing that concerned me seeing this come forward from Councilmember Quitson was just, ooh, I don't want to be butting into the commission and telling them what to do. But I think this is really exciting to be talking about this at a time when people in the community are concerned about, again, that blunt instrument. And I guess the last thing I would say is I can hear what the planning director is saying about the ideas of things like gentrification might not make so much sense in a small community. But what does make sense and what is worrying us, I think, again, is that if we just take the easy way out, if we look at it that way of upzoning, we will get market rate. So maybe it's not that we will have people of lower incomes being pushed out, it's that we won't be able to bring any more people in with less than huge incomes, because all we will be building is for people at 150+% AMI.
Councilmember Hytopoulos, Deputy Mayor. Oh, yes.
No,
Deputy
yeah,
Mayor.
I think you were first. I'll go next and go on. The planning director has presented a lot of the information that I wanted to have out in the open. It's a very good start. The observation that there are no examples in the state of Washington, that's an incentive for this community. It's not put off, I believe. Why should we not be the right place to show that this works, to make it work? The ordinance that would control what happens basically includes the same standards, the same regulations that we would have if we went forward without if we just tried to build on the upzone, the broad upzone basis. We still have the same controlling factors: height, proportion of the site, and we have the same objectives to accommodate a greater diversity of housing types. I think that the last thing I wanted to do was to tell the Planning Commission how much of Winslow to cover in this way. I don't want to. They need to work those details out. And they also need, I think, to recognize that a lot of the work that will have to be done belongs not in the definition of the preferred alternative, but in the last chapter, the code and policy recommendations. And the code and policy recommendations are not new code. They are the fundamentals, the design for the code that we need, including adaptation of the HDDP standards, including decisions about where and for what purpose mandatory inclusionary zoning might work. That's been proposed for not the broad low income, but the higher end of the income spectrum that the pure market, unassisted market can't supply. There are so many things still to be worked out, but I feel like this has the potential to simplify the patterns, the work that needs to be done, and eliminating the inconveniences, as Councilmember Hytopoulos has said, the dangers of a simple broad upzoning. There's a great deal of uncertainty in that. There's a feeling on the part of the community, this is imposing on my property, it's imposing on my neighbor's property, when much of Winslow in its present state can't accommodate the affordable housing that we now need to incentivize. We will be focusing attention on the areas that can in the near future be developed, other areas that require a very broad scale redevelopment, and we try to plan for that. And then we have the standards to apply to that specific property and its broader context as well. So I'm satisfied to go forward with the recommended motion. It's different from the direction that I offered, but it has a softer edge, I think. So I'll stop my comments and we'll hear from others going forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Murwaki.
Thank you, Member Matthews. Appreciate my colleagues' comments. I'm not going to get in the weeds. That's really something that we really shouldn't put on the Planning Commission. I'm also concerned about the bandwidth of these commissioners and everything that we're asking them to do. But this is something that I would support. And the reason why I like it, I'm going to do it from a 30,000 foot view as a concept, in that this is one more tool that can allow us to get affordable housing availability. And since it's not been happening in the state, it's going to be interesting to see how the State Growth Management Board will interpret this. From my reading of it or my thinking, let's say you have a structure that is already in a zone that will allow 4-story building. But because of the way the market works, a developer cannot give 80% of those rooms or 80% of those apartments as affordable because he has to pencil it out. However, if we have this overlay zone, of which gives that developer, you get it at 80%, you're going to get a lot of incentives to help you make this affordable for you and good for our community. I think that's a win for both, and it could be a tool that could get needed density for for affordable housing, and without having to do an increase in the density of that zoning. Because the zoning already has some level of multifamily use. So I like the idea a lot of an overlay, which would potentially change who gets to live in those buildings. That's what I see this tool as. And so I think it's a really exciting idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Oh my gosh, sorry. Councilmember Dietz.
Yeah,
And then
thank you,
Councilmember
Mayor. Good comments. Well, first off, I commend the Deputy Mayor for bringing this forward, and also constituent Bruce Wyland for forwarding the article, which was part of the agenda packet. But I have to say, I did not know about this until I saw, and then I read the article. So I'm pretty excited. This looks to be like an innovative approach to zoning that is well worth considering by the Planning Commission. Again, we're asking, in my mind at least, it's just another tool for the Planning Commission to consider. We're not directing them, this is what you're going to do, but we're suggesting, please look into this and with your considered expertise. So I'm very excited about this and I look forward to seeing a motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Schneider.
Thank you, Mayor. So I think in order for this conversation to be useful to the Planning Commission, without sending any directives at all, but in order for it to be useful, I think we have to get a little bit more specific about what it might be, because, you know, reading this article here, it kind of looks like it could be anything. And I think that might just create more confusion or more overwhelm or whatever. What I would like to consider is if we could make some assumptions and say, if this, then this, you know, if this, we could consider applying this, you know, let me just be more specific. I can imagine that this would be a really positive thing if we could say, look, we're going to have an overlay zone of all of Winslow for 100% affordable. So anybody, you know, anytime there was the desire and ability to build 100% affordable, this umbrella, so to speak, would give you the way to do that. So if it's 100% affordable, obviously there's many ways that could get applied. But what if it was, you know, you can't exceed the existing height limits, but you can do, you know, a much greater FAR. And, you know, in terms of coverage, and then you can, you know, break up those units into as small as you want. So this would kind of get us to that piece that I wanted to see, which is to say, let's use FAR as, instead of units, as the way to look at how we do density inside of Winslow. So if we're not willing to do that overall generally, then maybe we could do it inside of, you know, an overlay zone. So that would be one instance where, you know, it would be kind of good to talk about that specifically. So are we willing to, you know, for instance, eliminate parking requirements and some of these other things that are talked about in this article, if it's in the case of 100% affordable? And that way we've kind of created this default position that if you are looking to build 100% affordable or redevelop at 100% affordable, you know, you could take an existing building and add on to it and chop it up into smaller units and make it 100% affordable. So I guess I would just like us to, maybe it's too late for this evening, but to have these conversations about what does it look like, rather than just kind of throwing it at the Planning Commission and saying, "Ooh, look what you get to deal with now." All right, that'll do for now. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Schneider. So we got a couple of questions from Vice Chair Blossom today that I wanted to put out there, because I was wondering too, how is an affordable housing overlay zone different than the housing design demonstration project, the HDDP, that we currently have? And so if she's asking, I'm betting that the Planning Commission will probably ask when this goes to them too. And so she says the HDDP program provides for a density bonus in exchange for affordable housing and applies to a defined geographic area. And then also wanted to know, from a permit processing perspective, does staff think that an affordable housing overlay zone would be easier to administer than the HDDP or something similar? So those I thought were good questions. And I think this is a great tool, another tool. And so I'm grateful for the Deputy Mayor for bringing this forward. I think the more tools that we have in our tool belts to achieve affordable housing, the better. I don't know if it's a magic bullet, just like none of them are individually, but it might be something that could work. And I think it's pretty cool that no one else in Washington State has done it. That doesn't seem like a deterrent. That seems like we could be trailblazing, and that is who we are. I do worry about the Planning Commission and timing and all of the stuff on their plate. So as specific as we could be, probably the better. Well, not saying this is what you want to do, but just what we're asking for. And I have complete faith that they will work their magic. And yeah, I think that was not it. I'm forgetting something, but that's it. Councilmember Hytopoulos.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about them knowing what to do with this because their conversation has already brought them to the realization that X amount of units are not going to be available in the private market. It's a lot of what we've actually been mandated to show the capacity for. And this is a way to say, well, if anyone out there is willing to do X, then this will happen. This is what we'll provide for you. That creates that capacity. It creates a lot more genuine capacity than just an up zone with nothing else there, because that's going to go to market rate. So I don't think we need to be more specific. And I also think that once we get down into the issues, as Councilmember Schneider's talking about, will there be incentives related to height, or will FAR slide in there somehow, or I don't know. But I think then we're down to like drafting the ordinance, and I don't think we have to worry about that yet. What we need is the scheme, and I think they're gonna understand what to do with this tool, but I guess we'll find out.
I like that, the scheme. So tool, yep, exactly. And what I remember what I was trying to say, it had to do with what Councilmember Hytopoulos was saying in her first round, that we don't really have gentrification as much of an issue, but also one of the other things that affordable housing overlay zones try to prevent are displacement. And that is something that I know our senior community and others were concerned about. So I think this is a great tool, as said, and hope it goes forward. Deputy Mayor.
I'd just like to add a few more comments in response to what's been the questions raised and so on. You all saw in the agenda packet the message that I sent not to council members, except that I included Leslie Schneider, but to a small working group of professionals in the field, including Charlie Wenslau, including the developer of the Oliver project, and Maria Williams, who is involved in the Finch Green project. These are pros. They know their way around. I haven't talked, except I had a very substantial conversation with Charlie Wenslau. His initial response to the memo was, no, I don't think this is the right thing. And I didn't know why he said that. So we met and we figured it out, worked it out. And he said, well, it looks to me like HDDP brought more broadly established and so on. So that may answer Councilmember Blossom's thing. The question is, how will the Planning Commission go forward? How will planning staff go forward with this? What can be done to bring these professionals from our community into these conversations and help with this? I feel like I've already overextended myself. I still have a lot more curiosity. I've downloaded the code language from the city of Cambridge, Massachusetts. It's only about 30 pages. The ordinance that establishes their overlay zoning program, the regulations that will be applied to projects that wish to qualify for the benefits and assume the responsibilities of the affordable housing. So the Planning Commission has done a lot provided a lot of discussion already of what it will take using FAR rather than units per acre to diversify our housing in middle housing and in the lower income housing as well. All of this spectrum can be addressed within this umbrella. And I don't know that it should apply all across Winslow, because there are parts of Winslow that are already developed in such a way that there may be opportunities for ADUs in places in Winslow, and that may be an option, but it doesn't doesn't need a density increase. But we're going back to basics with deciding what density increases, what what raising of the standards for density do we need? We probably need to raise in the areas that are already covered by FAR, the FAR methodology. We probably need to raise that standard to the to redefine the base, and then bonus would be added to that for affordable housing, as it's speculated, as it's detailed in the eventual ordinance. But that eventual ordinance, that takes shape sometime next year. We have to define what our goals are, what we're going to achieve, and that will satisfy, I believe, that'll satisfy the Department of Commerce. I'd love to hear from the people at Commerce how they will regard this type of tool, which is advertised in the MSRC. There's no reason why it shouldn't be practiced in Washington State, and it should be practiced in different forms for different communities. The idea for this, the recommendation of the MSRC description came from Christy Carr, and she's working in the context of Seattle. I don't know if there are things that haven't taken shape yet in Seattle. Christy and I have talked, but infrequently, and she's got her own things to do. But she introduced the idea to Ariel Berkeley, and Ariel is a fan of this already. And it's all a question of how we go forward and how we can use the expertise of our consultants as well as the expertise of our planning staff. We haven't been bringing enough people together for brainstorming or whatever it takes. That's all I need to say, I guess. I will while I'm speaking here, I will move. Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, first did you want to say?
Well,
You had your light first and then was Councilmember.
Yeah, I was waiting for the deputy mayor to make the motion and I was going to second it.
Oh,
I have a
okay.
comment
So,
before.
yes. So first Councilmember Milwaukee, and then we'll
Yeah.
get the motion.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
We're all good now, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
we're fine.
good. The comment I'm going to make, and I think to a point at the end of Deputy Mayor's comments, and I really appreciate, I saw also Sarah Blossom's email, and the housing design demonstration project is something, but it strikes me as that's a tool that is project specific, not area specific. It says apply to a defined geographic area, I get that, but I don't think it's something that relates to kind of zoning, and this is right. It says affordable housing overlay zoning. And so I think perhaps we have the tool already in our toolkit. It's just not used in the way that we wish it would. And perhaps the overlay is defining it is the area. And I really would agree with Deputy Mayor Quitzlin. I'd like to see how Department of Commerce would view this. And would this be allowable to add to our affordable housing density if we say that this is a tool that could get us these extra units that would not have been possible just through zoning? And if that's possible, this is an exciting thing that can happen for our city, because we could meet goals without forcing up zoning that could increase property values. It could diminish other people's view of their quality of life, whatever that might be. So I would really hope that that could do that for us as a city and meet our Growth Management Act objectives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Okay, Deputy Mayor Quitzlin.
I will move this motion that the council affirms the value of the affordable housing overlay zone tool applied to the Winslow sub area. And we wish the Planning Commission to consider developing this tool to the extent needed at this stage for completion of the work on the definition of the recommended plan for Winslow recommended alternative for the city of Winslow.
Could I just amend it
Okay,
to
what
simply
was-
say Winslow sub-area plan at the end?
Yeah.
And instead of all that other
Yeah,
stuff?
yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that and maybe suggest you give it another crack at just the full language.
Was there a recommended motion?
Yeah,
Yes, but the recommended motion is going in too many different directions. I can't parse it very well. I move that the city council affirms the value of an affordable housing overlay zone tool applied to the development of a recommended alternative for the Winslow sub-area plan.
Second.
Motion made by Deputy Mayor Quitzlin, seconded by Councilmember Dietz. All those in favor? Oh, sorry.
I'm not sure. It's so passive for something that I'm not sure I understand exactly what it's saying. I hope that staff feels, I hope the director feels like she could explain it. Because I think all we want to do is say, we like this tool.
Look into it.
We hope you will look at this
Take a
as
look.
one of the possible ways of addressing the things you're struggling with, period. I mean, I'm not, and I don't want to be critical, but I'm just having a hard time finding out exactly what we're saying there.
That was my intention, and perhaps some of the words were too loose. I had a differently crafted recommended motion in when I tried to get this on the agenda, but there was something wrong with it, or we would have it in our packet.
Could I suggest a streamlined language? Deputy Mayor? If you would
So
withdraw the
you
motion.
want to
I can't-
withdraw the motion?
Yes. We still have a motion, we still have a motion on the floor.
Or do you want to try again?
Okay, then leave it. I'll try to amend your motion. Strike what he said. And move that we ask the planning commission to look at the concept of an affordable housing overlay zone ordinance to address affordable housing in the Winslow sub-area.
I'll second that motion.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. So we have a motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, we got there. Apologies, everyone. All right, next we are going to consider authorization to spend up to $3,300 from the Public Art Subfund for permits related to installation of creative district boundary markers.
Mayor, the deputy city manager is going to give you a brief presentation, and the title here, we focus a little bit on a financial contribution, but what we really are looking for is the council's understanding and approval of the boundaries that are being, or the art pieces are being installed to help indicate the boundaries and that people are entering into the creative district.
Good evening, Council. Ellen Schroer, Deputy City Manager, and thank you to the City Manager for the introduction. The item before you is to take a look at a proposal for some creative district markers, including the location and payment for the fees associated with those markers. Creative districts are a designation by the Washington State Arts Commission. There are roughly 20 in the state of Washington, and Bainbridge Island has one. In some other places, and now we are proposing here to have markers inside the creative district to sort of delineate where that creative district is. The image on the left of your screen is sort of a very straight ahead map, and then to show the boundaries of the creative district, sort of starting at the ferry district or at the ferry terminal and running up north along the highway, with the northern, sort of the northeastern corner being at the Bainbridge Pavilions movie theater, and then it runs down south to the water around the area where there are some restaurants. The image to the right, which you received on paper in your mailbox late this afternoon, shows a more artistic rendition of the same area, with the Bainbridge Creative District being the lighter shaded area down in the downtown area of Bainbridge Island. The proposal from the Creative District organization is that we allow them to install 3 markers. These are the sketches of the proposal that they have chosen for the markers. These are 4-sided obelisks that are roughly 4 feet tall and 16 inches on a side. They're made of black metal with an internal facing so that they can be lit up by internal solar powered LEDs. Again, this is what they would roughly look like and are shown not in the locations that we're actually suggesting, but just as a suggested location. And again, they are made of metal with acrylic panels. The locations that the staff determined would work sort of from a ADA and other flow participation with, considerations for pedestrian flow, and also inside the Creative District in cooperation with members of the Creative District staff from the Bainbridge Downtown Association and the Chamber of Commerce are these 3. One is at the corner of Winslow Way and Madison Avenue, shown by location 1 on the map that was in your packet. This is right here at the corner, just down the road at the Winslow Green. Location 2 is at the southern terminus of Madison Avenue, close to a place where we have a something new art installation, where the Thai restaurant is on one side and Docks is on the other. And then location 3 is at Waypoint at the intersection of Olympic Drive and Highway 305. And we propose to install those markers or have them installed in those 3 locations, roughly where they're shown on the sidewalks. Because these are on public property and on public sidewalks, they will require permits. Those will be submitted by the Bainbridge Creative District, but because we always have payment for city permits, we are requesting spending of money of up to $3,300 from the Public Arts Subfund to cover those fees. And we're also requesting council affirm the locations as presented for those 3 markers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deputy City Manager. Okay. Councilmember Milwaukee.
Well, thank you, Mayor Matthews. I think this is one of the exciting things that's come up in a long time. It's not that I'm a liaison to the Public Art Committee and shows their value in arts and humanities, but this is, I think, a no-brainer. I think it's pretty exciting. So I would move to authorize the expenditure of $3,300 from the Public Arts Subfund for permits related to the installation of boundary markers for the Bainbridge Creative District and approve the district boundary markers.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Milwaukee, seconded by Councilmember Dietz. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, I'm really excited about these now that I heard about the waypointing aspect that businesses you can find them with a barcode. So I want to get a yarn shop I know on there. Okay, next is introduce resolution number 2025-7 to amend the city's fee schedule to add a fee for redaction of body worn camera videos.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to make a presentation from my seat here on the dais. The proposition before the council is to consider a new fee that staff is recommending to you to be adopted by resolution, and that we are not recommending it be adopted tonight. We'd like to present it to you, but be forwarded to the April 25th council agenda for adoption. What are we talking about? We're talking about the images from body worn cameras. Police officers in the city of Bainbridge Island wear body worn cameras. They're activated when they interact with the public. They are a public record. From time to time, people will request the body worn camera images. The state of Washington allows us to charge a fee, which we have not adopted, when we redact the images. We redact certain images to maintain privacy or required by law, say minors or things that would be distinguishing in a household. We are proposing that a fee be adopted that would be applied to uninterested third parties. Those people that are directly involved parties, their legal counsel, oversight agencies would not be charged. But for example, a hobbyist from out of state who requests that these receive these images, they would be charged a fee. The fee that we are charging is proposed to be 90 cents per minute of staff time that is involved with the redacting of the images. That 90 cents per minute is consistent with other agencies that have currently adopted the fee. For example, King County, it's 92 cents per minute. Bremerton, it's $1 per minute. Port Orchard, it's $1 a minute. Excuse me, and also Bellevue is lower, 75 cents per minute. Issaquah, 80 cents per minute. Kirkland, 84 cents per minute. So we are basically in the middle of the field. We feel that this is important in that we do receive requests from uninvolved third parties that we believe could be hobbyists or they have other reasons to obtain these images. And we think that the public should not be subsidizing their obtaining those images when we have to go through the expense of redacting them. With that, we can answer questions. Christine Brown, your city clerk, has prepared a lot of work for this. And also, I will point out that our next council meeting is the 22nd of April, not April 25th.
Oh,
so
second. Okay.
And so that was a recommended motion that slipped through the cracks.
Thank you, City Manager. Councilmember Dietz and then Councilmember Morawaki.
I was just gonna make the motion. I move to forward resolution 2025-07 to the April 22nd, 2025 consent agenda.
Second,
Okay.
with a comment.
Sure. Motion made by Councilmember Dietz, seconded by Councilmember Morawaki. I have a comment too after Councilmember.
Yeah, I've read it and I think there's a lot of safeguards in here. Examples include video that depicts a medical facility where a patient's receiving treatment, domestic violence or sexual assault victim, the interior of a residence, a minor or deceased person. And I'm sure there are other sensitive visual images that we would not want the public to have, or it's not really necessary to the information given. And I also saw the exceptions, which are really broad. I mean, very good, including when people like the Washington Commission on African American Affairs or Asian Pacific Affairs, if they want it, there's no charge to them because they're probably doing something in terms of civil rights and such, and all the others that are listed there on our study thing. So it's a really interesting program, and I look forward to discussing in the future.
Thanks, Councilmember. This made me think of, so thank you, City Manager, for bringing this forward to us. Because there's a fee, it had me thinking of some of the comments we were getting about solid waste and our desire to just gain funds and city managers' money grabs and that sort of thing. And so I just wanted to say to the community that this city manager, our city manager, does a lot of great work for us. And what he does is in the best interests of the city. And his way of working might be that he's the head. He's responsible for all these things, especially our fiscal well-being. We might be the heart in this case. So we are one body. And so I just wanted to say that we have your back and we thank you for all the work that you do for us. With that, we have a motion on the table, motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes.
Then we have the
Okay, we have one more thing. Yep. And then this, yeah, we have one more thing and then this.
the communications. Would
Yep.
that follow? Well, okay.
We
Chair
should-
makes a decision.
Okay, so next we will do communications and then we'll do that
Okay.
last motion. Okay, communications, transmit planning commission motions on matters unrelated to zoning made in the first quarter of 2025.
There is no action recommended. This is purely for the council's information. Staff is attempting, I am attempting to do a better job in communicating to you actions of the planning commission. They're not related to land use decisions. So these are actions that were taken by the planning commission or recommendations made in the first quarter of 2025. You'll see that there's about 4 of them. They involve 2 requests for legal opinion. I will say that I have communicated to the planning director that I am responsible for forwarding those to the city attorney in terms of incurring time and cost, and I have done that. The city attorney has responded with one opinion, we'll respond with the second. And then there are two motions related to appointments of the planning commissioners. Excuse me, one motion, thought there were two, but in terms of requesting that the terms be extended, that is beyond the scope of staff recommendation. That is purely a policy issue of the council. And then a motion with regard to the groundwater management plan. Again, no action is required or requested, but this is an attempt to make sure the council members are fully aware in a public setting of these actions the Plan Commission has taken.
Thank you so much, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to call attention to the request to transmit. It was a request made to me in my presence to transmit to the council a desire to extend the terms of 3 commissioners. And the sooner we make this determination, the better, because now's the time for applying for vacancies if there are to be vacancies. These are 3 terms that expire at the end of June, and the work of the council of the commission would be interrupted if the 3 commissioners cannot continue their service. I would love to see them, each of them, sign up for another 3 years, but I'm not sure that's going to happen given their other responsibilities and values. But they do want to finish the work that they're involved in now. And perhaps that will extend to the end of the calendar year. So I believe it would be appropriate to postpone action on elections to the Planning Commission until the end of the year. But I do want to hear from other people. We can't decide this tonight, but when will we put the question on an agenda?
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Morwaki. Oh, no.
That, I was going to say that you're forwarding it for discussion. That's an idea. We can't really talk about it now.
City Manager?
If the council votes to forward it for discussion, staff will do some staff work for it. We will not do staff work unless the council directs us to. And we can look to see how the municipal code is structured or how state law is structured, and if you're allowed to take this kind of action, or if it will be outside of your bounds of your authority.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
I'll move what the city manager had just said, and I can't really paraphrase that one, so.
Well, again, the motion would be that it would be directed to a future council agenda and that staff would prepare some information to the legal basis for your ability to do that.
Sounds great.
Okay, so moved. Do we have a second? Thank you. So
Second.
motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? No. Okay, that passes. Thank you for your communications, Planning Commission. And now we have one more agenda item. Councilmember Deeds.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I move that we authorize our attorney in the national opioid litigation to withdraw the city's claims against the pharmacon benefit managers.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? No. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. And with that, we are adjourned.